The following is a special presentation of Extreme eSpeed TV, your new home for everything iRacing and eSpeed. Extreme eSpeed TV brings you live coverage of the Light Electric Company NextGen Series. See the NextGen Series' biggest stars battle in iRacing's most competitive series. Elbows up, hammer down action. The Light Electric Company NextGen Series, live on Extreme eSpeed TV, your home for everything eSpeed.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Talladega Superspeedway. It is the latest Sunday night for the Light Electric Company NextGen Series, and it is the Linda Haney Memorial 55 presented by Vapotrail Clothing. I am Travis Piercefield, as always, joined tonight by John Hine. John, we've got cars out on the track right now taking qualifying laps here at Talladega, and it's surely going to be another exciting night, especially with our tight points battle at the top.
Absolutely. Qualifying, there's not going to be much to it. You're going to see a field pretty close together in time because it's just put your foot down and drive kind of deal. But once we get to that race, yeah, this is a track. It's a wild card. You never know what's going to happen. It's pretty easy to get caught up into something. Everybody knows when you come here, there's a threat of the big one, and it can happen at any time. And the key is getting through that. These guys have made some rule changes this week to try to cut down on that a little bit. So these guys are going to be limited by how many incident points and whatnot they can get. So we'll be interested to see just how much that changed the dynamics of the racing.
So looking out on the track now, Troy Radford goes out for his lap. He's fifth fastest currently. Hunter Tate shot to the top of the charts here early. And looking at hot laps and practice times, earlier, Brian Mescal Jr., our Daytona restrictor plate winner, was fast as well, as we've got 20-plus drivers here tonight. As mentioned, we have the tight battle atop the point standings. Speaking of, Brian Littleton currently second fast here in qualifying as they all go for that Linda Haney Memorial Pole Award. Looking at the big Talladega Superspeedway here tonight, John, what kind of racing are you expecting from this Light Electric Company NextGen Series?
White knuckle racing. These guys are going to have to be patient and play chess at about 190 mile an hour. Be very calculating on what your moves are making. You want to make sure you don't lose the draft, because if you lose the draft, you might end up going a lap down here. And to give you perspective on just how fast you're going in the draft as opposed to out, qualifying is a 54.06 currently, the top spot. These guys were in the 50s for practice. So, almost a 4-second difference between being in the draft and out of the draft.
So looking at our 2022 point standings after last week at Bristol, it's currently Troy Radford and Brian Littleton tied atop the point standings. Each of them have one victory this season. As we know, a victory could also shake things up. Travis Smith currently in third, 25 points back. Chris Mepford, 39 points back and forth. And Steve Baker, who's picked up 5 victories this year, 45 points back into fifth. John, we've watched Troy Radford and Brian Littleton swap back and forth that points lead all season long. And now as we go to the final 5 races, what do you expect those two to try to do each and every weekend now that that's down to the 5 and starting even Stevens?
Limit mistakes and not put yourself in bad spots. Last thing you want is an accident taking you out. So these guys are going to be racing. They're still going to be aggressive because each one of them are really good and they're always up around the top 5. So you've got to be up front, but you've got to be smart about how you do it. And that both these guys are well capable of doing it. So I expect this thing to go right into the last race of the season.
So 26 cars are here ready to race at Talladega. We've had 16 make time lapse. We've seen this throughout the season, John. Some guys may not even make an attempt, just start at the pack, use that as strategy to get the night started here at Talladega. And we've seen a variety of racing effects throughout the year, some long green flag runs, some cautions. But for the most part, as we come to a track like tonight, somewhere where you can play with it and get spaced out, Talladega could be one that we have some long green flag runs and that pit strategy comes into play.
Yeah, and it'll be fuel strategy because tires really aren't going to matter a whole lot. But I do think that some guys may, eventually take tires and swap them around, so you can do some things there to pick up some time on pit road or lose some time on pit road depending on your strategy. But this is pretty much straightforward. You're going to run it until it's almost dry and probably come in. But I'm sure there'll be a couple in here. These guys always seem to get creative about short pitting and doing those other things.
Another thing to think about is that you've got to think those teams and teammates will come into play. Looking at some of these teams, majority of them have at least 4 drivers in them. There's some with less, some with more. But you got to think as if those green flag runs do occur, when they do come to pit road, those teammates are going to be the best friends you can have out there.
Absolutely. And the thing is, too, remember, they're going 190 mile an hour out there in the draft. They've got to get these cars slowed down to pit road speed. So just keep an eye on pit road. If we get too many cars trying to enter pit road at one time, trouble can happen. Somebody can brake a little bit harder than the other person, and it's not going to take much to end up getting into trouble there just on pit entry.
So looking at the team standings, you've got Dirty Air Racing. That's consistent of Brian Mescal Jr., Steve Baker, Brian Littleton, and Travis Smith. Some have made laps, some haven't made laps. Whenever we go to restrictor plate racing and talk about the guys that want to get aggressive, move to the front, I think of like Dale Jarrett used to always drop to the back as soon as that race would start. Ryan Newman does it. Denny Hamlin will play around with it where he'll drop to the back and then try to race to the front to see what the best strategy is to finally make that move at the end. Do you think those games will come into play tonight here with the Light Electric NextGen series?
I think they should. I think everybody should be well aware of if they get dropped back, how long does it take to work their way back up? Figure out what your car will do in certain situations. So you do have to put yourself out there a little bit to figure out what you're going to have at the end. Because if you just hang out in the back all night and not take any chances, then get up there and try mixing it up, 2 things are going to happen. One, probably nobody has seen you up there, so nobody's going to know if they can work with you or not. Or your timing and everything about when to bump and how to use a slingshot and everything else, all that could be a little bit off, and you can end up either getting into a wreck or causing one.
How important is it at a track like this to be around people that you do trust or that you've at least had some experience on a restrictor plate race with before?
Oh, it's massive. And the thing is about this league, it's a pretty tight-knit league. These guys have been racing around each other all season. They know each other. They already know who they can trust and who they can't. And the thing is, I'm looking through the field, I don't think there's anybody in the field you can't trust, and that's going to make it more interesting to see. What I would be more interested as a driver, if I'm in a Ford, how does my Ford push a Chevrolet? How does a Chevrolet push me, or a Toyota? Or mix up with the manufacturers just to see what your car does around them. I think that's probably going to be another key element for tonight.
So as qualifying's about to come to an end, it's Chris Berg atop the standings. If he can hold on tonight, that will be a Linda Haney Memorial Pole Award victory for him and a nice way to get the night started here at Talladega. Second, Brian Littleton. As mentioned, he's tied atop the point standings. Hunter Tate third, Matt McMeekin, good run for him fourth, and then Steve Baker, the perennial top 5 qualifier and for the most part runner throughout this league, will end up fifth. And with that, qualifying will come to an end. It's going to be Chris Berg, your Linda Haney Memorial Pole Award winner. Before we get to the starting lineups, John, what's your expectations? Anyone stand out to you that will probably run up front or have a chance at the end of this tonight?
I'm going to think the guys that qualified up front, your Hunter Tate, your Littleton, I think they're going to try to keep everyone behind them. They probably figure that's a pretty safe place to be. But, we got guys like Brian Mescal Jr., our Daytona winner, all the way back there in 21st starting position tonight. So I think you're going to have some guys like I like him that are going to stay back there. But I expect I wouldn't be surprised that guys like Radford and Tate and those cats are not all up front.
Well, they are starting to grid out here at the start-finish line here at Talladega Super Speedway. As they get lined up for tonight's race, we've got 27 cars out there ready to get going. And, John, you've got our starting lineup.
Yep. Tonight on the pole is going to be the number 66 of Chris Berg. Next to him is going to be the number 80 of Brian Littleton. Starting in the second row tonight is going to be Hunter Tate. And next to him is going to be the 41 of Matt McKeekin. 55 of Steve Baker is going to be starting fifth, and to his outside is going to be the number 88 of Dale Osmond. Starting seventh is going to be Brandon Medford, and next to him is going to be the 94 of Troy Radford. Starting in ninth tonight is going to be the number 11 of Chris Spencer. Next to him, the number 85 of Jeff Stiles. Starting 11th is going to be the number 1, that's Dustin Ping, and to his outside is going to be the number 34 of Doug Wykowski. Starting in 14th position here tonight is going to be the 13 of Rob Lydell, and next to him will be the number 30 of Bobby Hetrick. Starting in the 15th position, or excuse me, the 16th position will be Roy Hyde. Starting the 17th will be Justin Rigsby, and next to him will be Travis Smith. Dustin German is going to be starting 19th. Next to him will be the number 27 of Nathan Bishop in the 20th spot. As before mentioned, our Daytona winner starting 21st is going to be the number 33 of Brian Miskell Jr. And next to him will be the number 57 of Damon Cox. Starting 23rd will be Chris Medford in the 46. Next to him will be the 77 of Lance Yancey. And starting in the 25th will be the 47 of Ray Radford. And next to him on the number 22 will be Matt Kopp. And rounding out your field here tonight is going to be the number 4. That's Mike Massengill.
So the field is set, 27 cars. Looks like Nathan Bishop still making his way out onto the track. And we will be underway here at Talladega Super Speedway. It's the Miss Linda Haney Memorial 55 presented by Vapotrail Clothing. 55 laps around this 2.66 mile super speedway. And they are long laps but fast in speed, John. And it'll be interesting to see how they get sorted out. On the intermediate tracks, they're quick to get that single file. We'll see how racy they get and what type of groups they get in here early in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And the two guys that have won plate races already this year, we've talked about Brian Miskell, but Chris Spencer also parked it at the Daytona for the summer race. So both those guys in the field here tonight, we know they can get it done. So pairing up, I think I'd be looking for one of those guys pretty early.
You can see our pole sitter, Chris Berg's got Miss Linda Haney on the hood of his car. So if you could drive that to victory lane here tonight, that would be extra special as well, as they will enter through 3 and 4. Of course, Talladega has that weird spot for the start-finish line, not the tri-oval. It's past the tri-oval here, which normally opens up the opportunity for maybe 1 or 2 more passes for a finish before that checkered flag waves.
Yeah, and we've seen it 100 times in real life. They come through the tri-oval and they're 3-4 wide jockeying for that position as they come around there to take that checkered flag.
So it's Chris Berg, Brian Littleton leading the field down through the tri-oval here at Talladega. As our night of racing here on Sunday night is about to begin, the green flag waves and Chris Berg leads that inside line into turn number 1. Brian Littleton will lead that outside line as they're still side by side going through the first 2 corners. Take some time to get up to speed here, John.
Yeah, these restrictor plates on these cars, they won't be full song until they're probably coming out of turn 4 almost, maybe halfway through. Next time around, they'll be at full song up around that 188, 190 mile an hour, and looks like everybody is just content picking a line here and seeing what they got to start this thing out.
You do see some guys move down to that inside line. You see that outside line's now led by Matt McMeekin as he's got Dale Osmond on his rear. And also the inside line front to a little tandem racing here to start.
Yeah, there's got to be places where you're careful. You can get to each other's bumper here and push a little bit, but you don't want to do it through the tri-oval and you don't want to do it through the corners. That's a real easy way to turn somebody. So you've got to be selective where you do get up there and start leaning on somebody's bumper.
That top line starting to organize a little bit better than that inside line, as the front two of that inside line have started to break away. Looks like Brian Littleton will drop below the yellow line. Looks like he'll go to the rear. That opens up the door for Chris Spencer to move to that inside line and try to move towards the front.
Early strategy move by Brian Littleton, who obviously is up here for the points, so he's wanting to make sure he has a car at the end. It looks like he's going to drop back, and he's just got to make sure that he stays in the draft. You don't want to lose it. Like I said earlier, there's a 4-second difference almost between being in the draft and out of it, so you'll get lapped in a hurry if you lose it.
We will jump in our Shake and Bake Blackhawk Motorsports in-car cam. Currently riding with the number 8 of Hunter Tate. He is second in that line on the inside, as you can see him following Chris Berg down the back stretch. A lot of movement, even with these cars that are nose to tail, as that outside line continues to hang tough, and they'll remain side by side as they come through the tri-oval.
Yeah, the outside line, once they got these cars wound up, really got together pretty quick, and they're starting to make ground on that inside line. In fact, they're starting to pass the inside line, which is pretty interesting to see here early on.
Also interesting to watch who's more comfortable in that draft. You can see the 88 of Dale Osmond moving around quite a bit. Also the 4th car in line in that outside line of Jeff Stiles. A lot of movement, especially as they go through those corners.
Yeah, whenever I've run these races, that's one thing I'm paying attention to. If I'm behind somebody and they're kind of, even if they're staying in their lane, but they're kind of weaving around in a lane, that's not somebody I want to be behind. I'll try to get out from behind them and either go high or go around them or whatever, because if they're moving around that much, when it comes time to push, they're going to be awful difficult to push without wrecking, because when somebody's pushing you, you've really got to hold that wheel steady so they can square you up and push you.
Both lines fell apart as they crossed the start-finish line that time. Chris Spencer and Steve Baker jumped to the outside to the lead that front outside line. And Matt McMeekin's now 4th in line, as they were 3 wide going through 1 and 2. It looks like they'll get reorganized by the time they go into 3, as Chris Spencer and Steve Baker will slide down and now lead that inside line.
Yeah, that inside line now has more cars than the outside, so those guys on the outside are probably going to fall back until they can find places to slot themselves in now.
Great move by Spencer and Baker as they made their way up to the front of that inside line. First jumping to that outside line, getting clear of Berg, and then moving down to the inside, as it's now Chris Spencer, your leader, working lap 6 of 55 here at Talladega. Looks like Trey Radford will jump up in front of that outside line, see if he can get that move or that group reorganized and move back towards the front.
Yeah, Nathan Bishop, just an update. He's running 27th away from the pack, and the leaders did a 51, and he's doing a 54. So it won't be too long before they catch him, but hopefully that right now Nathan's probably hoping for a caution here. That's kind of a bummer that he's lost it, but that shows you the effect of losing the draft and how much it can catch you out.
Up front, Berg and Tate will jump up in front of Radford now as they leave that yellow line for the first time tonight. It's still Chris Spencer, Steve Baker on that inside line. Everyone moving to that outside opens the door for Brandon Medford in that 83. He's now 3rd on that inside line.
Yeah, the numbers have now evened out here, and of course, as soon as they did that, you saw the outside line start to move back up and pretty much be even with the inside line. So you need cars to go fast, and the more cars you have, the faster that line's going to go.
See that fourth car in line on that inside. That's the 34 of Doug Wasaki. Good run for him here early. He started outside the top 10. He's now up to 8th and 4th on that inside line. As you can see, guys continue to jockey for positions between that inside line and that outside line. Berg will jump down in front of Chris Spencer. Spencer looks like he's got really good car control here early, John, as he was once the lead car, now falling in line behind Berg. Doesn't appear to have affected his line or his driving through the corners.
No, it hasn't, and he's kept a pretty wheel and kept that car straight, so that gives him an opportunity, number one, not to scrub speed, but those behind him, is more predictable, and they can get closer to him and push him along.
With this Xfinity car and the restrictor plate, John, how quickly can a hole or an opening close up, or do you have an extra little second to be able to make a move and a decision?
It really depends if the person behind you has a run and is in the current state of sucking up to the car. If that's the case, yeah, that hole's going to close pretty quickly, especially maybe on the straightaways. But if it's there, maybe like on the corner or even the corner exit, if you do it quick enough, you should be fine. But once they build some kind of run there, those holes can close rapidly.
So Chris Berg has regained that lead by jumping down in front of Chris Spencer. His pushing partner is now third, and first car in that outside lane of Hunter Tate, as now things have settled back down 2 by 2 with cars in both that inside line and that outside line. As Spencer does get out of line there for a second, but they'll fall back into line and try to reorganize going through 2.
Yeah, and a little later on, they might even use that very top line up there and make them 3 wide here when we get close to the end of this thing. It can be done.
Some updates. Brian Littleton, who dropped towards the back, he's currently running 20th. Also back there with him is Travis Smith. Brian Mescal Jr. is as well. He was our Daytona winner to start the season. Dustin German back there, Lance Yancey, Nathan Bishop is still at the end of the field, now 36 seconds back, so you got to think he's about 15 seconds away from the leaders getting up to him, John.
Yeah, and right now you have almost 2 different packs. You got the big pack up front that's running side by side, but then Brian Littleton's kind of heading up a little train there. Those guys are starting to close back up there, but there's a little bit of a gap between the 2 packs right now.
So Spencer was able to jump up in front of Tate. Now he's alongside Berg. As always, John and I appreciate you tuning in on Sunday night to join us here for the Light Electric Company NextGen series. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like the Extreme eSpeed Network page, official home of both this series and the Cool Ray Pro Late Model Dirt series. We've also got the chats open, so if you want to share who your pick for tonight is or where you're watching from, we'd love to hear that. As we work lap 13 here at Talladega, 55 laps will make up this Miss Linda Haney Memorial 55, presented by Vapotrail Clothing. And so far through the first dozen laps, John, has this played out how you expected it to here early?
Yeah, it's pretty much the MO for these guys everywhere we go. They seem to play nice here early on. Everybody figures out what they got, and they concentrate on clicking laps off. and nobody does anything too silly here. So with as wide as this track is, it's not surprising they've given each other room and been able to click these laps off.
You know, John, when I've been around Talladega a couple times, both as the driver and as a passenger, and I think the scariest part for me is that tri-oval. One, it's got more banking than it looks like, and then two, you get pulled to that outside wall as you try to go through it. Adds a little bit level of difficulty that's maybe not as expected, especially when you have these big banked corners that you kind of would expect some G's and some pull on the car.
Yeah, and the other thing too, visually, it narrows. You know, as you go in there, you just don't have the kind of room you do through the corners or the backstretch. I mean, you do physically, but just from what it looks like, you don't. Not at speed, anyway.
Definitely a very cool track that stood the test of time. And as a race fan, whenever Talladega is just different, I always get excited for that one. That's one that I can watch all the way through and try not to take that middle break through some of those middle stages.
Yeah, and right now, just for the record, Nathan Bishop is now entering turn 3, and these guys are just a few seconds behind him, and they're going to close on him really, really fast. Now, he should be able to just go high and let them pass, but if he stays on the bottom and they've got to snake their way around him, watch for that, because that can create some pretty hairy moments.
He did have some issues here gridding, so he may have just been late to get started. The other nice thing, John, he is the only one near getting a lap down right now. So even if he does go a lap down, he should be the only one, barring any other issues, at least here early in this race.
Yeah, and it looks like he's going to the high side here as he moves up on the backstretch. So these guys will probably catch him over here in 3, probably closer to turn 4, and they'll be able to just work their way around.
And as we ride along with Nathan, you can see what he sees as that group of cars moves to his inside as he's up against that wall through the tri-oval. And you can also see the speed difference between the group and him.
Yeah, and he'll be able to move down now and catch the draft and kind of probably stay with this group here. So that'll help him out, keep him on the lead, or keep him the 1 lap down, but keep him the first guy or 1 lap down.
So as they work lap 17 here at Talladega, it's Chris Spencer out front. He leads that inside line, Hunter Tate behind him. Outside line led by Troy Radford and Matt McMeekin. Matt McMeekin's been married to that outside line from the beginning, and he's rubber band from the front back and now back to the front as he is stuck with Troy Radford the last 10 laps.
That group led by Brian Littleton's kind of closed back up here on this pack here, so if they continue to stay on that bottom line, that might push that bottom line out ahead of the outside a little bit just because they've got more cars pushing them along.
Looking in the top 10, that 13 on that outside line, Rob Lydell. Haven't seen him a lot this year. This is his 32nd career Light Electric Company NextGen Series start. As we've seen some new guys come throughout the year, some guys return. And as always, mix this league with this track. It's really up to that final lap to see who could come away with a victory here tonight, John.
Yeah, and that's what I said earlier about maybe using that third line once we get down to it here, especially if they all stay packed up like this. If you're going to be content running, 7th or 8th, that's where you're going to finish. You got to make something happen, and that outside line is a place to do it.
So this time will complete lap 19 of 55. We've been green from the start. No Willis Landscape cautions as of yet, as they continue to be side by side up front there. Really the top 14, 16 well organized between the two lines, as Chris Berg will now move down to that inside line and pull into the lead. Now he's in front of that number 11 of Spencer.
Well, these guys have done a nice job of giving each other the space they've needed to operate here, and still side by side, and we've been that way since the drop of the green now, 20 laps in.
Laps in, as Chris Berg out front, Chris Spencer behind him. They have swapped that position back and forth. Hunter Tate's also been in the top 5 of majority of this race as well, along with Steve Baker, as it looks like Hunter Tate and Steve Baker will jump to that outside line, see if they can move up there and battle Berg, as now Baker looks to the outside of Hunter Tate.
Yeah, and that's got to cost him. Nobody went with him. He's going to drop back now.
So Baker will drop back. That opens the door. Berg and Spencer separate from the group a little bit, as now Brandon Metford will move up in there. As mentioned earlier, that 34 of Wysocki up to the 4th spot on that inside lane. Great run for him here early at Talladega. And now that outside lead is led by Hunter Tate in that 8, which that 8, especially that font, has led a lot of laps and picked up a lot of wins here at Talladega.
Yeah, it sure has. And what they used to call him, the Pied Piper, old Dale Jr. running around this place, kind of made that his own playground through the 2000s, didn't he?
A lot of victory lanes at both Talladega and Daytona for Dale, which for me, I'm sure you too, John, the revival of North Wilkesboro that he's led as of late is definitely exciting in the racing world as well.
Absolutely, it'd be nice to watch that All-Star race there. That's gonna be one that you definitely gonna want to tune into.
As Hunter Tate and that outside line have somewhat stalled out there, as you see Berg and Spencer in front, moving around. Spencer will jump up into that front line or that outside line now, as he looks to the outside of Berg. Great timing there by Spencer. We'll see if Hunter Tate can push him to the lead.
Well, these guys are starting to get a little dicey here. And this might be just them just trying to figure out, how to make passes and how to go, and just putting things into the memory bank for a little later on.
That's one thing that comes to play at these restrictor plates quite often, is knowing when the right time is to make the move. Not only what the right move is. I think of Atlanta earlier this year in the real world. LaJoie tried to make that move, and it was maybe was somewhat late, especially with how if you got in the lead there, you could pull away for a little bit. Looks like here that decision is going to have to be made quickly, and if you miss it and that car behind you makes it, they're going to have the advantage.
Yeah, and another good point of that is when Baker, the 55, went to go make it 3 wide, nobody followed him. Well, I would fathom a guess if we were sitting on lap 54, maybe 55, and he bolted out like that to try to make, I bet you some of those guys behind him would have followed him.
Well, and interesting now that outside line only has 6 cars in it, as everyone else has dove to that inside line. This happened earlier. We'll see how long it takes for some of those cars to jump back out into that outside line to try to move up towards the front.
Yeah, I think that outside line's a little quicker if it can get organized and you get enough cars up there. I actually, for what I've seen, that line is probably a little bit quicker for sure.
Guys have used it to move to the front. They then jump to the inside line to protect that line. But you got to think late in the race, if you're able to jump up in that outside line, it might push you to the front for victory.
Absolutely.
So the laps are ticking away quickly here at Talladega tonight. Working lap 26. We've been green from the start. It was Chris Berg leading us to green with his Linda Haney Memorial Pole Award. He currently runs third. He is third in line there on that inside line, as we've had multiple lead changes, a handful of guys out front leading laps. And right now that inside line is starting to separate from that outside line. Now only 5 cars to that outside line.
Yeah, and another thing I put in the memory bank, if I push somebody to the lead on that outside line and then they dive down to the inside and hang me out on that outside line, come later on, I'm going to remember that. And if I'm the one up front and they're behind me, I'm not going to look out for them and try to wait before I go down to where we're both clear. I'll leave them up there. So, how you work with others can have repercussions. How you work with each other, with others now, can have repercussions later.
Currently riding along with Chris Berg. He is on the third car on that inside line. He was our pole sitter here at the start of this race. As you can see up ahead, Hunter Tate currently pushing Chris Spencer as they complete lap number 27.
Yeah, now you got a long stream of cars there on the bottom. They may not be nose to tail, but they're all using the same draft, and that outside line is just falling apart here. And this also might be that maybe they're getting ready to dive into the pits. We're over halfway now. So maybe these guys are lining them up for the pit stops, because obviously you don't cut across the track if you're in the outside lane to make a pit stop.
Even Matt McMeekin, who's been in that outside line all race long, has now moved down to that inside line. As no takers from the lead, but it'll be interesting to see what teams might jump down into pit road here soon.
Yeah, I think they're imminent, just from the looks of how everybody is trying to everybody get down and get to that inside. I would expect probably next lap or two. I'd be surprised if some of these guys don't hit pit road. What will be crazy if they all decide to do it together. Then that pit road, getting onto that pit road could get a little sketchy.
Getting down to speed and making sure the cars around you know that you're trying to get down to speed is where it gets sketchy.
Yes. Looks like Baker's coming in, but he's the only one.
There goes the rest of his team. Brian Littleton, Travis Smith, Roy Hyde, Brian Mescal Jr.
Now, I saw a lot of lockups here. I hope somebody didn't get a penalty, because that'll kill the race.
So it looks like all of Dirty Air Racing hit pit road that time by. Including one of our points leaders, Brian Littleton. He hit pit road as well. Troy Radford, the driver he is tied with in the points lead, is that 94, currently running fourth. He's tried to stay up front, and it looks like Hunter Tate, Chris Spencer, large group coming to pit road this time by.
Oh, yeah, big group. A few of them got a little squirrely, but it looks like they're all going to make it in.
So they will hit pit road, large group there. That leaves Chris Berg out front. Looks like he's almost solo out front. What will that do, even if it's just one lap running around out there without anyone near you, or another group here coming up your rear fast?
Yeah, it's going to cost you. It's going to slow you down. Plus, those guys, if they wanted to stake, they could just drive right around him at will. But my guess is they're going to be pitting, so they're going to play nice here and just tuck in behind them.
So the front 8 still out there. We'll see if they make it to pit road this time. Looks like they will. This should complete green flag pit stops. The group coming around that just exited pit road is going to be led by Hunter Tate, Troy Radford second in that group, Brandon Medford in third there, as they're headed down the backstretch as that front group is still on pit road.
Yeah, and that first group that pitted aren't really that organized. They had some separation, so Baker's out quite a ways ahead of Littleton there. So advantage to that second group for the first pit stop here.
So that group is led by Troy Radford. The group of Chris Berg, Justin Rigsby, you can see them on the inside of turns 1 and 2 making their way back out on pit road.
Which that's going to give us 3 distinct packs here, and the only way that one pack is going to catch the other, everybody's got to get on the same page and work together. Get single file and try to run them down. But if you start racing amongst yourselves back there, you'll never catch them.
And it looks like that group led by Radford is pretty well organized. We'll see if they're able to pull away from Chris Berg in this group, as they have one final car to snake their way around, which is that Rigsby machine, and they clear him.
Yep.
John, it looks like Spencer was unable to get down in front of Rigsby, and that's going to open up the door for Chris Berg and Doug Wasaki to hook onto him and use that outside line. They're now coming up to the front.
They sure are, and we're working lap 33 here. No cautions yet, so we're starting to get into the later stages of these races. So I think guys that were wanting to hang around back got to figure out what their car is going to do, what kind of car they have here tonight. So you see that outside line, you got 3 cars towards the front of it, you got 3 more coming. One pulls up in front. So here we go, we're back to double file racing.
Chris Medford pulled right up in front of Brian Littleton there. They're able to keep it going the right way as it's Chris Berg jumping to the inside. He wants that lead back as he moves to the inside of Spencer.
Yeah, and these guys jockeying like that's going to bring the guys that have been trying to catch them right back up to them. So we once again are going to have one big pack.
That good run for Doug Wasaki continues. He's now the second car in that outside line. He's got Chris Spencer behind him. Brian Littleton's now in that lead pack. So is Roy Hyde. So that green flag pit stops bring some of those cars that were driving in the back to be in safe mode. They're now right in the middle of this hornet's nest.
Yeah, now you're going to start to feel the intensity probably start to pick up a little bit. You know, want to make sure that you're out front, because the guys out front probably aren't going to make you crazy moves, but the guys back there, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, they've got to make stuff happen. They've got to get to the front. I'm already starting to see them look at 3 wide. Here we go.
That's Littleton leading that third line. He's got Roy Hyde and Steve Baker behind him.
That's going to slow down that middle line and give the inside an advantage there with those guys being on the outside.
Inside line by far has the most cars organized and lined up at this point. It's Chris Spencer and Brian Littleton leading those outside lines, trying to make something happen as they continue to battle side by side about third in line.
Question's going to be how long can we do this 3 wide here, and it looked like Littleton's going to hang Hyde out to dry up top. He moves back up though.
Currently riding along with Chris Spencer. We've got 20 laps to go. He is in that outside line as he moves up alongside the 83 of Brandon Medford. He continues to try to move up towards the front as you see Radford bounce around there as he continues to try to push Berg. Spencer jumped up into that outside line there. That opened the door for Doug Wasaki to move up. As they continue to be 3 wide, those 2 outside lines trying to get reorganized, John.
Yeah, they are, and those guys are in the middle are kind of dancing around here. High stakes racing here.
See Brian Miskell Jr., the back of this pack, he's trying to latch onto that outside line. He's got Lance Yancey behind him. As once they do get up there, you're going to have this group be about 20 cars all tightly running together now.
Yeah, and later it gets, the bigger the pushes are going to be, the more blocking, the more, like I said, the intensity level is going to start ramping up here. I think it's a little too early to do anything too crazy, but I tell you, if I'm running, I don't know, anywhere from maybe 11th on back, I'm trying to position myself now, and I start trying to work my way up to see if I can get up here towards the front.
With 18 laps to go, Doug Wasaki's been pushed to the front by Chris Medford. As we've mentioned, John, that outside line organized into one line there for a minute, and that momentum pushed them to the front. And now it's Jeff Stiles and Chris Spencer in that outside line trying to move up to the front of Wasaki.
Yeah, and you got Littleton and Baker trying to push to that high side again up in that third lane. This time they've got some help. He's got 3-4 cars behind him.
Big move by Spencer there as he moves down in front of the 34, tries to move around the 85 of Stiles. Really, guys are just using that middle line to move up, and then they're quick to dive out of it. As this thing counts down, John, it might just be right place, right time for you to pick up a victory.
Absolutely, and look at Littleton. He went from the top all the way to the bottom. What a move. He's in that third lane and just crossed all the way across and got down on the front there on the bottom.
It really is to move up to one of those 2 outside lines, move up to the front, and then you dive down to that inside yellow line to hold your position. And then if you happen to fall back, you'll move back up using one of those outside lines again.
Yeah, this is when these guys' heart rates are starting to climb, and the grip on their wheels are a little bit tighter. Fun stuff here.
Well, and if you look at that outside line, John, second in line is Roy Hyde. Third in line is our Daytona winner from earlier this year, Brian Miskell Jr. He slowly and quietly made his way up there.
Yeah, and that's what I believe he did in Daytona too. And not only is he the only restrictor plate, but Chris Spencer, who's up in this mix too, he's a restrictor plate winner this year.
Oh, they go 3 wide. There's almost contact with Miskell and Spencer. Spencer wanted that outside line. That'll push Miskell Jr. and Travis Smith to that third line. We'll see if they stay there or they're able to get down. It looks like Miskell Jr. is going to stay in that third outside line.
Yeah, he is, and I'm watching these guys. They're pushing a lot harder than what they have been all race.
So, large group of cars, as this group has 24 cars in it. Side note, it does look like Damon Cox, Ray Radford have lost the draft of this front group. And now it looks like Mescal Jr. is stuck out there on that third line all by himself. Looks like he'll have to try to find a lane to move back up through the field.
Yeah, he's got to be watching his rearview mirror to find that opening. But now they're kind of walking back up towards him.
It's going to be 13 laps to go this time by. It's our points leader, Brian Littleton, up front. Outside lines led by Steve Baker. So two guys that are definitely accustomed to visiting Century Victory Lane. And they'll be side by side as we complete another lap here in the Miss Linda Haney Memorial 55.
Yeah, and the last time entering turn 3, Doug Wachowski, that fourth car on the inside line, got on that yellow line and the back end got real squirrely here. So all it's going to take is a slight slip up here that can cause a wreck. So they are right on the edge here.
Back separated into two distinct lines for the most part now. Looks like that outside line might be a little bit more organized as they try to move their way back up. Also moving up is that Dale Osmond, that 88 machine. He's back up into that front group.
Oh man, Travis, I tell you, about ninth on back, these guys are starting to feel that urgency, and I'm watching guys make holes that aren't necessarily there, but this cow got forced back up in that third lane again with Travis Smith. Guys going from the bottom to that middle lane there.
Baker gets a little out of it coming out of 4. That'll slide him up with Roy Hyde. Berg will move up into that middle line now up in front of Spencer. That'll leave Stiles and Littleton out to dry for a moment up front as now the group moves back up to them, but that middle line is coming up.
Yeah, and this is where you get into trouble. I am seeing a lot of changing lanes. We haven't seen this many cars change lanes this often this race, and now guys are changing them and they're doing it rapidly. They better make sure they're clear when they do it, or there's going to be a big pile up.
Buckle up, John. This time by will be 10 laps to go around Talladega, and things are heating up here as they go for victory. Dale Osmond now in that second spot in that middle line, as the Steve Baker still trying to get something going up on that third line. We'll see if they're able to organize. Littleton will jump out of line, but they'll stick it together on that inside yellow line. The other thing, John, is now here late in the race, we're seeing some guys up in the front couple rows of cars that have not been up there all night. And now they're up here late in the race with some of these guys that have been up front all night long.
Yeah, and those guys have worked with each other all night long. You get a new guy up there, you got to figure out, okay, is he a good pusher? Is he a good leader? You know, you just don't know. We got a caution.
Caution comes out. It looks like it may have been for Jimmy Hetrick. Caution's going to come out with 46 laps complete.
Mike Massengill looked like he moved up, and then Hetrick came down. Two guys probably going for the same spot. Hetrick is the one that's worse for wear of it there.
Caught the end of that Willis Landscape caution as Hetrick was hitting the wall and spinning there as our first Willis Landscaping caution of the night comes out with 9 laps to go.
That changes everything. I doubt anybody will pit because I don't think that you necessarily need tires. I don't think tires will make a big deal out of it. I suppose if I was towards the back, maybe 15th, maybe I'm back. 16th, I might come in and just get the new tires to see if I can get any extra spots. But if I'm anywhere in that top 10, I'm staying out.
No takers at the front this time by. As we will have our first Blackhawk Motorsports restart zone of the evening.
Yeah, 19th is the first position in there with Chris Medford. So, yeah, those guys at the back of that doing exactly kind of what I thought they'd do.
Brian Mescal Jr. was a part of that group that pitted there. He had worked his way up front and then got shuffled back towards the back. And to tell you the truth, John, that caution didn't come out where in the field I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be somewhere closer up towards the front as they were really jockeying for position there the last 10 to 15 laps.
I'll be honest, I thought so too. The way they were switching lanes and everything else, that's such a recipe for disaster when you got multiple guys, because on the highway you got blinkers and stuff. These guys are changing lanes and guys have to react to it. Well, if two guys get the same idea at the same time, that's when something big happens.
So they continue to make laps here late in this Linda Haney Memorial 55 presented by Vapotrail Clothing.
Man, this is going to be such a shootout. Well, who's your money on?
Spencer's been fast. Osmond's made his way up there, but if I'm looking down through the field, someone that maybe makes a move to get back up there further down, maybe Brian Littleton, he's currently 7th. If you wanted to get really aggressive, I think that 8 of Hunter Tate's been fast too. He's going to restart 13th. What about you, John?
Well, I'm going to pick the low-hanging fruit here and then go with Spencer. He was the last plate winner. He's up front. He knows how to get it done here. So, just because he's up front, I don't think it's going to be easy, but I think he's going to have his hands full. He's going to be looking at that mirror about as much as he's looking out that front window.
Reminder, the Light Electric Company NextGen Series only has 4 more races remaining. Next Sunday night, we're at Kentucky Speedway, then we go to Dover, and then we move into October for the final 2 races of this, as we will end up at Miami Homestead Speedway to crown our champion.
That's such a fantastic facility down there. A lot of fun to drive. I even like the road course that's in the middle of the Homestead there. And I'm not big on Rovals.
My brother enjoys the off-road track that goes through the infield of Phoenix. That's on iRacing here. He likes that track.
If I do any off-road, it's at Crandon.
For obscure tracks that are available. So they'll get lined back up 2 by 2. It's going to be 48 laps complete when we go green. It's going to be real interesting here, John, as they take that almost full lap to get up to speed. And then you've got to think once they get up to full speed, it's going to get hectic quick.
Yeah, thinking back to the original start, the bottom line is the one that got pushed out early, as they're getting the cars wound up. But it took probably, 2, maybe 3 laps, and all of a sudden that outside line started, coming back at them. So At that point, if that holds true, we're going to take the green here, start at lap 50. That means they're going to catch back up maybe around lap 52, 53. That's not a whole lot of time to figure out what you're going to do.
So for the first time tonight, we'll have our Blackhawk Motorsports restart zone. It's going to be Chris Spencer, Dale Osmond leading us back to green here at the end of this Miss Linda Haney Memorial 55. Restart zone is in that tri-oval area. And Chris Spencer, Dale Osmond will lead us back to green here at Talladega, 2x2x2 throughout the field. 6 laps to go at Talladega as both lines stay closely tied together as they try to gain speed through 1 and 2.
Boy, they sure do. That doesn't look like anything like what the beginning of the race was. That inside line, about all the way up to third, was able to move up, but boy, that outside line got a great restart.
Well, it looked like Spencer waited till the last part of that restart zone, and when you get to the end of it, it really gives that outside line the knowledge of, well, he's got to go now if he's going to go.
Yep. They didn't waste any time getting 3 wide either.
That third line has gotten together as Jeff Stiles will lead that outside line down the front stretch here. It's still Chris Spencer, Chris Berg leading that inside line. Berg will jump up in front of Osmond. He'll look to the outside of Spencer as they come to the line, 5 laps to go. Berg jumps back down into that inside line. That third line has gained another one. Oh, Rigsby will go around.
Here's a big one.
Rigsby, German involved. Troy Radford, one of our points leaders involved. Jeff Stiles.
Oh, that's going to be tough for Radford here. And Littleton was in front of it, so he wasn't involved.
As you saw Rigsby in that third line get turned, I couldn't tell. It looked like Troy Radford may have avoided it, John.
Yeah, I thought so. He was able to get on the brakes. I don't know that he's going to have a whole lot of damage. He's probably going to want new tires because I'm going to bet he slammed on them. He got into it a little bit, yeah. But I think he's going to have minimal damage. And the other thing is that caught up a lot of cars. So he was running 18th at the time. He may still be running 18th before this is all said and done here.
He got into the rear of the 85 there and then jumped to the inside.
Yeah.
Well, our second Willis Landscape caution of the night, that will lead us to a green, white, checkered finish here at Talladega, John.
Yeah, we get to do this again. It was pretty sketchy, and it looked like that whole thing there, the 85 was started to push Rigsby before they were out of the corner. And when you start leaning on somebody's bumper and they've got that wheel turned, I said it earlier, you can't do that in the corners and you can't do it in the tri-oval. You're going to cause a wreck. The back end of these cars just will come around in a heartbeat.
Also, a bad luck for Hunter Tate. He was in the middle of that. It looks like Rigsby came down into him. He'd been running up front all night long. And also, someone that had some troubles gridding went down a lap early, John. Nathan Bishop's now on the lead lap, and he's up to 20th.
Yeah, he's going to have a shot now to see what he can do here. But it'll be interesting because we don't know what kind of car he's got and you know how active it's going to be. But I'm looking at the 94 here real quick of Radford from the front. He does not look like he's got a whole lot of damage. I don't know that it's going to affect him unless He got some kind of damage to the motor or something, but I think he's going to give it a go here. He has moved up to 14th. How's that? You get into you get into a wreck and you gain 4 spots. That's pretty good luck, I think, on some people's schedule.
Could be worse, as you mentioned. He's
Yes.
running 14th. Brian Littleton, who came into the night tied with him for the points lead, currently running in 7th. But as we saw with that restart, things can change quickly.
Yeah, and they very well may not be done. I think this is you're gonna see some pretty aggressive driving, at least by these guys' standards. When we go back green here.
So it's Chris Berg, Dale Osmond, Chris Spencer, your front 3. Steve Baker in 4th. He's got 5 victories already this year. And then Roy Hyde, Travis Smith will round out your top 6. So green, white, checkered when we go back to green here at Talladega.
And they're getting lined back up here, and some of the guys they did some things that probably worked the last restart, and some guys tried some things that didn't work, and you have to try something different here. So you get a second bite at the apple here, but they're not going to have a whole lot of time. Before we had 5-6 laps to go, and this time it's like you said, green, white, checkered. So you better be on it. Which I think translates to no lifting at this point.
Make a move. It could end up being a risk.
Yes.
So Dale Osmond will line up in that outside line, the lead car for the second straight restart here. He was really able to get a great restart that last time. They will move back through the Blackhawk Motorsports restart zone for the second time tonight.
The car I'm going to have my eye on here is that 94 of Radford. Did he sustain enough too much damage to keep up, or will he be able to tuck in the pack and still get a good finish out of this?
He's going to be right alongside Brian Miskell Jr. So a couple of fast cars back in the pack. Be fun to see what they can do here as we go green, white, checkered here at the end of this Miss Linda Haney Memorial 55. They move into that Blackhawk Motorsports restart zone. Berg gets a good start, but that opens up a gap between he and Spencer. See what that does for Dale Osmond on that outside line. Another great restart for that outside line, John.
Absolutely. Neck to neck going through 1 and 2 here. And side note, that 94 was able to fire off without any issues, so it's game on for him too.
So Dustin Ping getting pushed out to that outside line. He's the only one out there right now. Steve Baker will look. It looks like he's got, let's see who it is. Oh, Travis Smith behind him in that outside line. Is Dale Osmond stuck in the middle? That gives that opening to that inside line to start pulling away. They're 4 cars clear.
Yep, I think that 3 wide, that inside line is going to be really tough to beat at this point. Now we got a group to the outside here. We're going to go side by side as we cross the start-finish line.
White flag is out. White flag, and they are 3 wide now going through 1 and 2. Brian Littleton will jump to the outside of Hyde. There's contact back in the pack.
That's Radford. He's in it.
Out front, they are still racing here on the white flag lap. It's Chris Berg getting pushed by Chris Spencer. They're 4 wide as they'll go into turn number 3. See if anyone can get organized to move up there, or if Chris Spencer makes a move. That's the 22 of Matt Kopp. He's now into the top 3. As Roy Hyde makes a move on him, they're coming to the finish. Chris Spencer will jump on out, but it's going to be Chris Berg.
Wow.
Chris Berg will win the Miss Linda Haney Memorial 55, presented by Vapotrail Clothing. It looks like maybe 8 cars crossed the finish line there at the end, John.
Yeah, that was a big one that happened. And Charlie Radford is going to limp home 22nd after that.
The guy he entered this race with tied for points, Brian Littleton, will bring home a top 5 finish. So your top 3, which we will interview here shortly, Chris Berg, Chris Spencer, and Roy Hyde, as Chris Berg celebrates at the start-finish line here, picking up the win at Talladega.
Yeah, and that started with a bump. That big one started with a bump in the middle of the corner there. It looked like Smith there in the number 9 got a big shot from the number 1 of Dustin Ping right in the center of the corner, and it turned him down into the 41, and it was on from there.
So Chris Berg celebrates his victory here at Talladega.
Man, that was a big one. Dustin Ping took a couple of big shots in it, too. He almost left the park, and then he went all the way down and hit the inside wall.
So Chris Berg picks up his 7th career Light Electric Company NextGen victory as we wait for him in the top 3 to join us here up in the booth. But in Century Victory Lane, it's going to be Chris Berg here at Talladega.
Yeah, and Chris Spencer, I mean, you know, for big of a wild card as these are, to get a win in a second, 2 out of the 3 races, that's not a bad deal on the super speedways. But the big winner, I know Berg won the race, but the big winner is going to be Brian Littleton. He's going to have a little bit of breathing room now as we leave Talladega here. Points-wise, anyway.
And John, let's see if we've got our 3rd place finisher. It's the 00 of Roy Hyde.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Roy, this is John. I tell you, what a crazy finish. You had to do it to line up there a couple of times and get it done there. Tell me your thoughts and just how hard of a grip did you have on that steering wheel those last 5 laps on those 2 restarts?
Oh, there's still finger marks in it. I'll be honest about that one. But, yeah, it was nerve-wracking, but I knew it was coming, especially green-white checker. And I'm really surprised that we didn't go 3 wide right at the start-finish line, but pretty happy with how things came out. It was a whole bunch of pushing and praying. I can tell you that.
Well, you're able to navigate it well here, and I mean, do you enjoy doing plate racing? Is this something you find pretty easy for you to do, or is this just a hope and a prayer and a heavy right foot?
Well, a lot of it is luck, and a lot of it is I enjoy it. It's really nerve wracking, but I enjoy it just because there's so much that goes involved in the strategy and getting runs and moving around with the draft and trying to figure out which line's going to move. So it's really a big mental thing, and I really enjoy it.
Well, I've always said that when you go somewhere you enjoy doing it, it's always good for an extra tenth. But we're going to transition now here from restrictor plate racing and head back to Kentucky as we get down to the final stretch here. What are your thoughts on going to Kentucky next week?
I like Kentucky. It's a decent cookie cutter track. It's good racing and multi grooves, so I'm looking forward to it. But I haven't had a lot of the speed that those front runners have had this year, so just looking for a solid finish.
Well, man, you got one tonight here. You're on the podium. Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Oh, always shout out to my wife that lets me set up and be able to do this stuff. You guys up in a booth for broadcasting all of our stuff here lately. You guys are doing a pretty good job with it. And the admin team has just been able to keep the whole entire league together, especially with all the shuffling that's been going on as of late.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations again on your finish tonight, Roy, and we look forward to seeing you at Kentucky next week.
All right, so thank you guys.
That's Roy Hyde, the 00, our third place finisher tonight.
Now joining us is our second place finisher. It's the number 11 of Chris Spencer. Chris, you ran up front most of the night. How did tonight play out, and was it what your strategy was coming into tonight?
Well, coming into the night, the strategy was to win the race, but I got a second place there, so we'll take it. It was a great race all night. I know I just wanted to stay up front. We didn't get the qualifying that we wanted, and I didn't want to be stuck in the middle of that pack. Such great racing back there, but definitely didn't want to be stuck between 3 and 4 wide there for majority of that. I got up front, and at the end of there, I kind of just got stuck in the position. I didn't have any help there, and I've been racing with Chris quite some time, and a lot of respect, and always great racing, especially at these types of tracks. And I figured try to make it between me and him at the end, so.
We'll jump to the end there. It looks like you made your move there going through the tri-oval to jump out and try to get past Chris. Was that what you were planning on, or looking back on it, would you have done anything different to try to get up there sooner?
The lap before coming to the white flag, I thought about making the move there, but I seen Dale there, and I figured, if I got in front of Dale, he might not help me, and I was like, if Chris and Dale got together, then I definitely might be screwed there, because I seen Travis and Steve together. So it's kind of sitting there by myself, just trying to just hope the right move was made. So I figured it was just to stay behind Chris as long as I could until I, got a chance to make a move. I just didn't have the help behind me coming to the tribal there to get around. Roy was coming with a big run, so I didn't want to move too quick and lose that spot too.
The restart with about 5 to go when you were out front, did you feel like that was a better position and a better opportunity for you there? Or even when that caution came out and reshuffled everything and you didn't have the lead, did you feel like you had the same opportunity?
Yeah, I felt pretty good about the car. That restart there that I got, that I was leading the race, the second to last restart there, I didn't want to get too far out front. Again, I seen Dale had made his way up there, and I had Chris there as well, so I didn't want to get too front and then get out too far out front and get stuck without any help. So I was trying to keep them bunched up, and then I was hoping we stayed green for the rest of the way because they were still jockling and going crazy back there, and caution came out. But either way, it was a great race. Still great finish there, so I'll take it. A great run at Talladega, no wrecks. So.
Last question, Chris. It looked like you had great car control. You were really able to jump out of that inside line, move up to that outside line, and at least move up in before you had to dive back down. Was that what you were using that line for? If there was momentum, you saw that as an opportunity to get pushed to the front?
Yeah. Surprisingly, the outside line was the fastest lane. The thing is, it just can't get anybody to stay dedicated to it. So I say early in the run, I say for about 10 laps here, we had it strong running up there on the top, and it was definitely moving a lot quicker than the inside. But everyone gets up there just wants to get back down and get to the front. So unfortunately, not many drivers wanted to stay up there. But I think if we had at least 6 or 7 strong cars that was dedicated to running there, I think that outside line was the quickest lane.
Well, it was another great run tonight, Chris. Any sponsors you want to give a shout out to from Talladega?
Yeah, of course, the Electric Light NextGen series. You guys as well up in the booth. Just always love going back watching the races every week I go back and watch it. So enjoy that. SRTV Network, the Smoke Show Racing team, Dustin for tonight. We look forward for next week. So I'll say a great day.
Awesome. That is our second place finisher. It's Chris Spencer picking up a second place finish here at Talladega. Now joining you, John, from Century Victory Lane, it's our tonight's big winner. It's Chris Berg.
Well, with his second victory this season, it's Chris Berg. And Chris, walk me through the last few laps here. You had to fight them off, and man, that was exciting.
Oh, man, that was extremely heart-pounding. My hands are still shaking. I was hoping, I've led the white flag lap on all 3 restrictor plate races this year and haven't came back with the victory. Spencer got me at Daytona, coming to the line. So I knew he was going to be tough. We were racing around each other, swapping the lead all race. And I mean, he's super clean and gave me one hell of a push there at the end to hold on. But it was definitely nerve-wracking.
Early on and throughout the race, we didn't see the 3 wide until the very end. We mostly saw 2 wide through most of the race. Once you guys started going 3 wide, how did it affect the different lanes? Did you get a chance to run all 3 of them? And was it just the safe place to be on the bottom?
I actually preferred the top when it was 2 wide, the middle if it's 3. But it was just kind of trying to take the runs and stick on the bottom, knowing that if I could get clear, get back on the bottom, somebody gets in front, I can move back up. Just trying to, play the lines and the runs as they came. So I didn't want to stay on the bottom, but it was the safe spot to be able to get myself back up and not get freight trained.
Well, you accomplished everything you wanted to tonight. Like I said, bringing home your second win. You parked it at Texas and now Talladega. Well, we head to Kentucky next week. What are your thoughts about Kentucky?
I honestly hate Kentucky.
Well, I just got done telling somebody that when you like a place, it's always good for a 10th, and when you hate a place, that loses you a 10th, unfortunately. But what about Kentucky then? Does it just give you fits, or you just don't really care for the track itself?
I really like the track. I struggle. I just don't have the speed, especially in 1 and 2. Just something about it, just off. I can't get the feel for it. But I mean, it's a fun track to race. I'm just slow. I'm a couple tenths off the fast guys.
I have a few tracks in this service I feel the same way about, so totally feel you there. Well, we're getting down to the final stretch here. Hopefully we'll talk to you again here then before we close out at Homestead. But who would you like to give a shout-out to?
First off, a big shout-out. We ran a special paint scheme in honor of Dale Osmond and his grandma, the Miss Linda Haney Memorial paint scheme. So, we parked it in Victory Lane for her and Dale and his family, as well as our Conrad Insurance Group, our main sponsor. So glad that they were able to, let us run these paint schemes. And then we got Vapotrail Clothing and then Pacific Aerial Services and my family. So it's got a lot of people supporting.
Well, once again, Chris, great job. Way to bring home another victory for the season. And like I said, hopefully we'll talk to you again here in Victory Lane before the season wraps up here in a few weeks.
Yeah, for sure. And also, got to give a big shout out to my whole Blackhawk Motorsports team. Without them, we're nothing. We all work great together, and it's a bunch of good group of guys.
Well, you guys teamed up tonight because you guys all probably pitted together and all that kind of good stuff, right?
Yeah, they were back at like 18th, like 17th through 20th, and I was up near the front, so it almost kind of screwed us up, but it worked out.
Well, good. Well, thanks again for stopping by here, Victory Lane, and like I said, hopefully we talk to you again before the season's out. That's Chris Berg, tonight's big winner from the Talladega Super Speedway.
Well, another exciting night here on Sunday Night Racing of the Light Electric Company NextGen Series, John. We move on to Kentucky Speedway next week. And as we show the final results for tonight's race, John, what's your takeaway from here at Talladega and the look ahead to Kentucky?
Well, I'm sure going to miss Talladega. These boys put on a great show here, and this was a lot of fun to watch and quite a nail-biter at the end. But I don't think Kentucky is going to be boring by any means. These guys have put on a great show week in and week out. So a different kind of track, different kind of challenges, a lot more of handling and keeping your momentum up there. So I can't wait to get there and watch what these guys do.
Well, as always, John, I appreciate calling the race with you. Appreciate everyone that tuned in tonight and listened and watched along, as it was another exciting Light Electric Company Next Gen Series event. I'm Travis Piercefield, as always joined by John Hine, and we look forward to seeing you again soon on the Extreme eSpeed TV network.
This copyrighted broadcast of Extreme eSpeed TV Network is intended solely for the entertainment of our audience. Any retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise distributed or used in any form without express written consent of the Extreme eSpeed TV Network is strictly prohibited. We hope you've enjoyed this broadcast.